Okay, so this is my next cake. It's an Impala, and all I've done is I went down to, well, I printed it off. I went to blueprints.com, printed it off on an A4 piece of paper, and then if the actual car came out at like 15 centimetres long, I just times that by, I think in this case 5, to give me about 75 centimetres long, which is the actual size of the cake. So I just went on to a printer, gave them the image, told them to times it by 5, and it spat it out like this. So I've got this massive piece of paper. It's my blueprint, cost about $5.50. It's got the front view, back view, the top, which is really important because that's how I'm going to cut my chassis out, and the side view as well. It gives you all the dimensions. I'll go along here and I'll actually measure everything and I'll write all the dimensions in. But today I'm just going to be working on the cake board and the tyre rims. Now, I don't know if you like cars and you want to make a car cake, the last thing I want to see is just a blank disc in there with a tyre on the outside. So I'm going to go down to a hobby shop and see if I can actually get a plastic rim that I can take a silicone mould off, so I can produce 4 pretty sort of legit looking rims for the car. So that's a little bit of something extra that I want to do just to make sure this thing pops. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm just taking the measurement there, and from memory I think it's around about, if we look there, the rim is around about sort of close to 6 centimetres in diameter. It's about 5 and 57 millimetres in diameter. So I'm going to go down to the shop. I'm going to get some wood to create the cake board, and so I can cut the chassis out and some spacers. I'm also going to drop some LEDs actually under the chassis so that the bottom of the cake glows as well. I'm going to be using RGB LEDs so that depending on the venue, because I don't know what the venue is, they can actually change the colour of the car, the glow. So that's today, cake board and rims. So we've arrived at Hobby City. Got my trusty ruler in hand so I can get the rim the right size. So I've just been on the road now between here and Bunnings for probably about half an hour, and it's a half an hour trip home. So contrary to popular belief, cake decorators don't have a hardware store attached to them. They have their premises. You actually have to go out and buy screws and all that sort of stuff. Now, I don't think I'm going to realise the cost of this rim. It's probably going to cost me about $30 for a set of 4 rims or 2 rims, with the silicone and the time to actually make the rim mould. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and buy a generic rim, one that I can use for another car, hopefully. So here are all the rims. Yeah, I need to get something that looks pretty sort of 1959, so and one that's actually going to be able to cast easy. Okay, so like I said before, I'm not going to realise the cost of these rims. I'll cast them in silicone and then I'll have a silicone mould. They're pretty looking rims, they're not overcomplicated. The problem is they're hollow, so you can see all the way through them. When I cast these, I'm going to have to backfill these moulds, and then when they're actually on the cake, I'll pour black chocolate into it so that it appears black, and I'll just highlight the silver in the front. So they'll work for what I want. Obviously, the more complicated the rim, the more complicated the mould, the harder it is to actually achieve. So I think this is a pretty good generic rim. It's exactly 60 millimeters in diameter, so I wanted 57. So it's 3 millimeters out. The alternative was to go down to a 50 millimeter rim, which would have been a whole centimeter shorter, and probably resulting in a tyre or a wheel that looked sort of out of scale. So hopefully this will do the trick. I'll just put lower profile tyres on it to actually make it fit the car. Okay, so these are the rims that I picked up from the hobby shop. Now I've got it back, I can have a really close look at it, taking it out of its packet. You can see that these cavities in here, they really add to the look of the rim. So what I'm going to do is I have to go around and block all this out and make it perfectly smooth so that I can, when I take my silicone mold of it, it doesn't grip onto that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to backfill this up to these struts inside here, and then I'm going to mount it onto a piece of modelling chocolate so the silicone can't go underneath it.
I'm going to put a dam around the outside of it, so when I pour the silicone on, obviously the silicone doesn't run away. And 25 minutes later, I'll be able to demold it, and I'll have something that looks like that, but these will be then full. From there, what I'd like to do is when I actually cast my mold in chocolate, black chocolate, I've got a choice then of either just leaving it black and highlighting the silver to give that effect, but it'll look more like that with the black behind it. Or I'm going to see if I can go in with a scalpel and actually just cut the chocolate away. So rather than making it solid, I'll make them hollow and just cut that chocolate away to reveal the background. So hopefully once I put the LED lights in it, I'll actually get some light shining through the rims as well on the cake. So I'll just do this now in front of you, and yeah, it's just how to make your own rims. Cool, so I've got a piece of modelling chocolate, I pinned it out on the pasta machine, and I've got a white tile. I like a nice rigid surface to work on, especially if I have to pick my molds up and move them around. So closer inspection of the rim. At the bottom of the silver part of the strut, if you turn it around, it bevels out or in, depending on which way you look at it. That means if I pour silicone in through that hole, it's going to go underneath and grab on, which isn't so much of a problem with the silicone mold. That will pop off, but where the problem is going to lie is when I start filling that with chocolate, when I pull that, it'll probably break. So what I need to do is tidy this up a little bit. I was going to put some modelling chocolate on the inside to block that hole up. But if I push modelling chocolate from the back, it'll actually become quite bulbous on the outside, like sort of like if I over exaggerate it with my thumb. It'll actually stick out like that. I don't know if you can see that. And we really don't want that because that'll be an ugly mag. So what I want to do is I'm going to put it on the modelling chocolate. First of all, I'm going to fill the side in. I'm going to mount it onto the modelling chocolate. Then I'm going to pour melted chocolate in here. Give the whole tile a bit of a shake, and it'll probably level itself out right below that silver part just there, which is what I want. And then from there, I can probably just build the dam around the outside of it and fill it with silicone. So we'll give that a go, and yeah, see how it goes. Okay, so I've got a hairdryer here, and all I'm going to do is take my piece of modelling chocolate that I pre-cut. It's double thickness of a pasta machine, so it's quite rigid. And I'm just going to warm that through until it starts going shiny. Oh, the camera's picking that up. There you go. So that's actually quite glossy now. And I'm just going to flip that over and stick it to my tile. It'll slide around for a few seconds until that the fat in the compound chocolate sets up. There you go. Now it's not moving. I'm going to do the same thing again on this side. Just until it starts getting melted. I don't know if you can see that. That oil was on there now, so that started to melt. And I'm going to take my rim and I'm just going to push down into the surface of that modelling chocolate. And now that's fixed in place, the silicone can't go underneath it. This is absolutely covered in dirty fingerprints now and grease and stuff. And basically, however you cast this in silicone, you're going to end up with the same sort of thing coming out in your chocolate rim. So I'm just going to take, I'll mess around with it first, and then I'm just going to go around and clean that down with an ethanol wipe, get all the grease and everything and fingerprints off, and we'll take it from there. Okay, so here we have another piece of modelling chocolate. So I pinned this out on the thickest setting of the pasta machine, heated it up, placed another piece on the top so we get a double thickness. So this is really, it's twice as thick as I can produce on a pasta machine. I've trimmed both sides and measured it so that it's going to fit around the outside of my rim with about 10 millimeters all the way around the outside for the silicone. Just tidy this end up a little bit. Like so. Alrighty. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a lighter and I'm just going to melt the edge of this modelling chocolate. Just going down, it's just softening that edge. And what that's going to do is it's going to melt the edge of the modelling chocolate so that when I place it on the other piece of modelling chocolate on the tile, it forms a nice melted seal. And again, as long as I'm careful, so I'll just put that on there now. Bringing it round, looking straight down. Of course, you could just use a plastic container for this, but then you're restricted by the size of the plastic container. If the plastic container is too big, you'll use more silicone. If it's too small, you might not have enough for the wall. So just looking down the side there, I'm pretty much happy with that. What I might do is just move it around until I'm happy, and then that fat starts setting up and it's not going to go anywhere. I still have the open edge here which I need to tidy up, but for all intent and purpose that's my dam around the outside of my rim. If I move the camera now, you can see straight down there, you can see how much space I've got, about 10 millimeters all the way around the outside. Maybe if I go straight down, you might be able to get a better shot. There you go. Okay, what I'm going to do now, just to be doubly sure that nothing goes wrong and the silicone doesn't leak out the bottom, is I'm going to go around and I'm just with a Dresden tool, I'm just going to push down. This is exactly what I did when I made my shell mold. Same principle, different application. And if I lift that up, you'll be able to see what I've done there. I've just gone around and squashed all the way around the outside, doubly sealing it. So we've got the melted edge and we've got the Dresden tool edge as well. So I'm just going to continue doing that, and then we'll deal with that join. Okay, so now we've got our join. If I just lift it up, you can see it. There you go. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to kiss it with a lighter. No, just joking. Right, so I'm just going to hit that and I'm just going to soften both edges at the same time. Like so. And now I'm just going to bring both edges in at the same time and basically moosh them together. So we've kissed it with a lighter and we've mooshed it with our fingers. They're both technical terms. I'm just rubbing that joint, to seal it. Now you're going to want to keep on touching it and manipulating it and all that sort of stuff, but what we really want is we want that fat to set up to create the join. So I'm just going to leave that now until it firms up a little bit, and I'll come back to it in a few minutes. So here's what I was talking about before. It would have been really simple just to put a piece of modelling chocolate on the bottom, push this inside, and then you wouldn't need to use this. But if you have a look, you can see that it's really hard to find plastic containers that are actually going to work. So I've got about a 7mm gap at the thinnest point and around about 14-15 millimeters at the thickest point. It's not really a waste of silicone, but it's certainly not the best use of the silicone. Also, this rim is almost to the very top of this container, and had I put modelling chocolate on the bottom and stuck that in, it would probably have risen up and be sitting proud. So this container, close but no cigar. That would have been really ideal if it was round, slightly bigger, round and slightly deeper, but because I can't find the container, we've had to basically build our own container. Okay, so I still haven't done this, but I'm just going to show you the chocolate first. I've just put a little bit of confectionery fat in my compound chocolate. If you're using real chocolate, you could use cocoa butter, and basically it has the same effect. If you put confectionery fat in compound, it just waters it down, makes it thinner. If you put cocoa butter in chocolate, cocoa, it makes that thicker. So all I've done is I've just melted some compound. It's a little bit thick, a little bit gluggy, and so I've just added that confectionery fat, and I'll leave that to one side while I'm working on this. That's made a really good seal now, so I just want to make doubly sure that that's not going anywhere. So I'm just going to drag my Dresden tool just over that join, just to flatten it out and make sure that it's nice and sealed. Sorry, I'm right-handed, so. And I don't think that join's going anywhere. I always try and just a little bit more reinforcement at the top there, just to make sure that if it's going to start splitting, it doesn't split from the top. There you go. And now we've got a nice joined, and it won't actually fall out, it's all stuck there, so I can tip it upside down, do anything I like with it. Alright, and that's ready to take the chocolate in those cavities, and then once the chocolate sets up, I'm ready to pour the silicone. I'm just going to pour that chocolate, compound chocolate, into my piping bag. Like so. And trim the edge off. Now I'm going to very carefully fill up my cavities. So going around. Alright, again, the luxury of having it on a tile. I can just bang it now. I don't know if you can see what's happening, but the chocolate's actually going flat and the air bubbles are rising to the surface. Okay, and I can just see that there's a couple that are a little bit shy of some chocolate, so I'll just put a little bit more in there, touch more in there, and there, and there. That one's fine. Tapping them out. Having a look around, just making sure that everything's okay. So that one's still a little bit low just here. I'll sink the nozzle. Alrighty. So just having a look at that, I can see that there's a couple of spots there that, if you agitate it, they actually go flat. Which is pretty much what we want. And now we'll just give that a wee tap to get it all flat. Okay, so I'll just zoom in. Just here you can see there's a bit of chocolate, a little bit of chocolate there. I'll scrape that off afterwards. I won't scrape it off now, because what will happen if I scrape it off now and it chips, because it's almost set already. If it chips off and falls into there, then I'm stuck with that bit of chocolate in the mold, and it'll just not look as good. So I'll just wait until it sets up a little bit, and then I'll go around and just tidy the edges up. There's a bit there, and just on the inside of this spoke here needs tidying up as well. So we'll let that set up and we'll come back to it. Okay, so I'm just going to go in there and give it a wee clean out with an isopropyl alcohol wipe. And I'll get my fingerprints off, any little greasy marks, stuff like that. It's looking pretty sharp. Cool. It's nice and clean. now I'm just going to do my silicone. So I'm going to hazard a guess and say that we'll start off with 50 grams. So I'll go on. I'm going to put in, let's say 60 grams. 60 grams, yeah. So we'll put in 30 grams of pink silicone. And after I pour it, I sort of can eyeball it. I think it might take about 90 grams. So I'm just going to go up to 45 grams there. Oh, bring it up to 50, and I'll take this one. Alright, okay. So a little more than I wanted to use. I made 100 grams instead. So I'm just going to mix that together. And I'm going to use the 2-pot mixing method, where I mix it up in here for 10 seconds. There's all this dark pink underneath that's not going to get through. So I will transfer it from one pot to another. Scrape it as much as I possibly can, don't waste any. Like so. And then continue to mix in this container, and now it's completely mixed. If there's a little bit of white or a little bit of pink that hasn't been mixed through properly, and when it cures, it'll probably open up as a fissure. So it's really important that we get these as mixed as we possibly can. I'm just going to gently pour this into the mold now. Remember, you've got about 3.5 to 4 minutes work time or pot life with the silicone. And you've got about a 25-minute cure time at 25 degrees. So I'm just going to pour that in just to fill, and what it's doing is it's pushing all the little air bubbles out of the way. You see them coming to the top, and now I'm just going to let it overflow really slowly, pouring from a bit of a height. Some of the air bubbles expel just from the pouring, and mixing through now. There's a little bit of white still mixed in there. So I'm just going to start scraping it out. Alright, and you can see that we're not close on the silicone. So that was 100 grams. Alright, so I'm probably going to need another sort of 40 grams total, so 20 grams of each. Again, I'll use this one, which is what I had before. 2 grams, so 22 grams of white. So if you're fast, you've got enough time to actually react to it not being full enough. There you go, done. Quickly mix it up in here. Then decant it into your other container here. Continue mixing until it's well and truly mixed, and then we can continue pouring onto the top of our mould. So this mould was 140 grams of Pinky Sil. And we've done everything right because there's no pink silicone leaching at the bottom of our mould. I'm just going to turn this around like that. Right, clean up's easy, just throw everything away. And what I'm going to do, because I don't like the air bubbles, is I'm just going to go around and agitate the surface of the silicone, and that will burst any little bubbles that have risen to the top. That's the beauty of Pinky Sil silicone. It's quite thin, the bubbles float freely to the top. It's not very viscous like other silicones, and you don't need a degassing chamber for it. So there we go, so I'm just popping all those bubbles, like so. And now in 25 minutes, this should be cured and ready to go. So I'll just go around. See those bubbles coming at the top, I'm just going to burst those.